Hello everyone, this is Logan59XP, here for another episode of the Nincast here on July 8th of 2022, and today I'm here to give my thoughts on Thor Love and Thunder. Just got back from seeing it, so I think you all get the drill by now. I mean, this is like the, fourth, fifth, sixth one I've done of these? Like, I don't know. How many movies have there been in Phase 4 so far? Whatever, you get the idea. Anyways, so Thor Love and Thunder. So this is a movie that I think historically would have been probably one of the higher movies in the series from like a hype perspective, because obviously Thor is kind of like the third of the trio, Iron Man, Captain America, and then Thor. They're kind of like the OG trio of the MCU, and of course Thor being the only one left, because of course Iron Man, of course, died in Endgame. Captain America, actually, we don't know if he's dead. We don't actually know that, but he's basically done as far as the series is concerned. Of course, in Falcon Winter Soldier, and they tease this in Endgame, but of course, Falcon Winter Soldier, we get, obviously Sam Wilson becomes Captain America, all that stuff. But Thor is still around. He's the only one of the original three left. And obviously, thanks to, Ragnarok and Infinity War, his Endgame appearance, Fat Thor has obviously been very controversial. But at least in Ragnarok and Infinity War, everyone loved Thor. So you would think that a new Thor movie would get people excited. And within certain groups, it definitely did. But I feel like this... flashback to 2019. At, I believe, Comic-Con. Yeah, San Diego Comic-Con 2019, when we got the big, Phase 4 reveal. And they announced Thor Love and Thunder. And then they announced that not only is it going to have Chris Hemsworth, obviously, not only is it going to have Tessa Thompson, obviously, it's going to have, all the characters, obviously no Loki, because he died in Infinity War. And of course, the Loki series, takes place with the 2012 Loki, all that stuff. So, Loki's gone. He's gone, basically, as far as, the current timeline is concerned or whatever. But, alongside, Tessa Thompson, Chris Hemsworth, obviously we got Korg back, all the stuff you'd expect. We got the announcement that Natalie Portman was going to be returning to the MCU, this time as Mighty Thor, which is basically, female Thor. The official name is Mighty Thor, but she's basically a female Thor. And now she's the one wielding Mjolnir instead of Thor, because of course Thor has Stormbreaker. And immediately they got people, worried. People were worried that she was going to overshadow Thor. That this was going to be, this was going to be the Mighty Thor movie and not really, the Thor movie or whatever. People were kind of worried. I wasn't really. I was kind of like, yes, obviously she's going to get... obviously, they're not going to put her in the movie and do nothing with her. But, basically, I wasn't worried. I felt like it's still going to be Thor's movie first and foremost. I wasn't really worried about that. And I figured, you know what? Let's see what happens, right? Let's see what happens, and we'll go from there. And the movie is now out. And I should probably preface this by saying I did not see any spoilers. In fact, honestly, this movie kind of sneaked up on me, because for the last month or so, the MCU in general has been completely on the back burner. I have not been actively thinking about it at all. In fact, I haven't even watched the newest episodes of Ms. Marvel. I saw the first two when they came out, and I haven't seen the last three at all. So, yeah, that says something as well, I guess. Obviously, we'll talk about Ms. Marvel, in a week or whenever the last episode comes out. We'll obviously do the obligatory my thoughts on Ms. Marvel, so I'll save it for then. But just in general, for the last month or so, the MCU, basically ever since Doctor Strange came out, the MCU has pretty much been on a back burner for me. I have not been actively thinking about it. I've been, obviously with, it wasn't really E3, but, the Summer Games Fest, season, last month, that was kind of my main thing I was thinking about. And of course we were all like, when's the direct? And then we kind of got one, at the very end of the month with the partner showcase, but I'm getting off track. This is about Thor, not about Summer Games Fest or whatever. Okay, so point being, I went into the, but because I was not actively looking at MCU stuff, I completely, I did not get a single spoiler whatsoever because I wasn't actively looking at anything. So I went into this movie 100% blind, did not know squat outside of obviously Thor, Jane, all that stuff. But outside of that, I knew nothing. I did not know a single spoiler. I didn't know anyone that may or may not be showing up in the movie, other than what we already knew from the trailers and stuff. Or the first couple of trailers. I watched the first trailer, not the second one, I think. But anyways, so... Okay, the movie. What do I think about the movie? So, I actually liked the movie a pretty decent amount. It's nothing amazing. Is it better than Doctor Strange? Because obviously once you like sit on something for a while, your opinion of it starts to kind of change as time goes on. I'm kind of like, because when Doctor Strange came out, despite, you know, the fact that, you know, Doctor Strange obviously had its issues, like, but overall it was pretty solid. It was, you know, the best. Well, okay, saying it was the best MCU movie since No Way Home is not really saying much because it literally was the movie right after. But it was definitely like better than like some of the other Phase 4 movies. Like, you know, Black Widow was Eternals was Shang-Chi was decent, but ultimately like like they were fine, I guess, but they weren't really great. They weren't really all that great. Then No Way Home came in and was this cultural milestone, obviously. I mean, it's No Way Home. And then Doctor Strange, and there was all the stuff about, oh, Professor Xavier's going to be in it. Well, if we see, it became all about the cameos, right? The cameo. And then the movie came out, and we got some cameos, most notably, of course, John Krasinski-ish. He was only in the movie for like 5 seconds, but he was in the movie. I don't know. But overall, the cameos or lack of cameos or whatever aside, I still liked Doctor Strange a decent, good bit. It's definitely the best. It's like second place. Like in the Phase 4 movies, at the top is No Way Home, then Doctor Strange, and this movie is right in this specific moment. I'm gonna say it's lower than Doctor Strange, but that obviously may change as time goes on. But overall, the main thing I can take away from this movie is that I think things are, at least in terms of the movies, obviously the TV shows are a whole other discussion, but in terms of the movies, I think the MCU is starting to get back on track-ish. It's not perfect, obviously. I mean, the MCU is never truly perfect, obviously. I mean, you know, Thor, The Dark World, stuff like that, but but you get what I'm trying to say, right? Like, it feels like we're finally, we're out of that, like, period of, like, I feel bad saying this, but we're out of that period of, like, filler movies. and now we're, like, getting back into the ones that actually kind of matter. Oh, man, I kind of feel bad saying that. But, you know, Black Widow is blatantly a filler movie. Like, it did not need to exist. It came out way too late, and we already knew what was going to happen. Because we've all seen Endgame. So, like, that movie was pointless. Shang-Chi, okay, that movie, in all fairness, had a reason to exist. To set up Shang-Chi. Okay, fair enough. Eternals. Okay, I guess also fair enough, but I don't know. I mean, it's weird, because, like, man, we're not even talking about Thor right now, but point is, like, up until No Way Home, like, No Way Home was the first movie that felt like it justified its existence. If Black Widow was erased from all, was quite literally snapped out of existence, no one would care. If Shang-Chi was snapped out of existence, some people would care, but it wouldn't be that big a deal. Same for Eternals. No Way Home, big freaking deal. Doctor Strange, not perfect, and obviously didn't have the highs or the hype of No Way Home, but overall, good movie for the most part. And then this movie's good. So, like, if we're finally getting back on the road of, like, you know, of the movies being generally good, then I think that's a good thing, obviously, because, you know, the movies that just kind of exist, it's like, you see them, and it's like, yeah, it's fine, and then that's kind of it. Like, am I ever going to go back and rewatch Black Widow? Am I ever going to go back and rewatch Eternals? I mean, at some point, probably, but not for a long time, because there's really no point in it. Whereas, hell, even Shang-Chi, I feel like I have more of a reason to rewatch than those other two. But we're supposed to be talking about Thor, but I just feel like we need some context here. But anyways, so Thor. So yeah, I think Thor is good. Again, not as good as like No Way Home. No Way Home is like the pedestal. No Way Home is like the benchmark that we compare every MCU movie to now. Is this good as No Way Home? Is this good as No Way Home? No, it is not. It doesn't have the fan service. It doesn't have the hype. It doesn't have. Even like the story, I know. I mean, whenever people talk about No Way Home, it's always Toby, Andrew, this, that. No one ever really talks about the actual story of No Way Home. Even though I do think that's done well for the most part, but whereas like Doctor Strange obviously had the core story of like with like Wanda and stuff, but like it was kind of more about like the adventure more so than the story, I would argue, for Doctor Strange. I've only seen the movie the one time, so maybe I'm not thinking about that quite right, but Thor does... Okay. Let's actually start the darn discussion. I keep getting sidetracked. Let's talk about Thor. Okay, so the movie... Okay, so if you saw the first, like, 20 to 30 seconds of the movie, you would not think you're watching a Marvel movie. You really wouldn't. And I don't... Now, to be clear, this movie is very much a Marvel movie overall. It's not like Doctor Strange, where it's got all that all the Sam Raimi, like, camera angles and editing that makes it... That's very different. It's not like that at all. It's an MCU movie through and through. It has the same, kind of just MCU feel. Obviously, they got the whole 80s thing, but honestly, they don't go as hard with the 80s thing as you think they would from, like, the marketing and the poster and stuff. I mean, they have it, but, like, it's actually fairly subtle for the most part. Like, they have it at the beginning, and then they have it, like, at the end, and, like, a little bit in between, but it's really not in the movie that much. But anyways, so yeah, the first scene of the movie is, of course, we get, Gorr with his daughter in, like, this, like, desert, and then he goes and finds an oasis, and then he talks to, like, this sun god or something. I don't remember his name, I'm sorry. But he goes, he finds this god that he's been, like, worshipping his whole life to say that, and that, he was hoping that, he would save him, and then of course the god's like, ha, do you think that I would do anything for you, you peasant? It's pretty much what he said. That's not literally what he said, but that's basically what he said. And then there's the sword that I know it has a name. I don't remember it. Sorry. Like the dark sword or whatever that has like the crazy power. And then he stabs him, and then that's kind of like the beginning of the movie. And okay, let's go ahead and get this out of the way. So obviously one of the big things with Gorr the God Butcher is the whole fact that it's Christian Bale and everything. And I've not seen Christian Bale in literally anything else, not even the Dark Knight trilogy. I haven't even seen those. I know. You haven't seen the Dark Knight trilogy? What are you doing? Look, there's a lot of notable movies I have not watched, as I'm not really a movie guy outside of like this kind of stuff. These are like the only movies I really bother to watch. But anyways. But okay, Christian Bale's performance. So again, I'm by no means this like authority on this kind of stuff, not even close, but he did a good job. Like I could tell he did a genuinely good job, and you can tell that he was like trying. That might sound like I'm not really praising him, but I really am. Like, he genuinely does do a good performance. Like, he's not, like, the best villain in a Marvel movie ever, but he's definitely, like... He's definitely, like, in that upper echelon, I feel. I feel like he has his performance is good enough that I would definitely say he's definitely above your, like, stock generic, like, Marvel villain that you forget about. Like some of the other movies have. Thor the Dark World. What even was the guy from Thor the Dark World, like the elf or whatever? I don't even remember his name, like Malekith? I don't know, whatever. But the point is, his performance is good. I don't know anything about Gorr from the comics at all, so I'm not judging him based on that. I am judging him purely on his performance in the movie, and Christian Bale does a good job in the movie. I could say that genuinely. I can tell he did a good job. So props there. Let's talk about the Guardians real quick. Because, of course, the Guardians of the Galaxy, that was also one of the kind of more notable things about this movie. It was like, oh, the Guardians are going to be in it. This is the first time we'll have seen the Guardians since Endgame. I mean, technically, it's the first time we will have seen Thor since Endgame, but it's the Guardians. Everyone likes the Guardians. You like the Guardians. I like the Guardians. Everyone loves the Guardians. And that's the reason why, back in 2018, yeah, it was 2018, when the whole James Gunn situation happened, people were like, no, you gotta bring him back, because he is Guardians, it's not the same without him, and then of course Disney caved and brought him back, and then now he's working on Guardians 3, and there's the holiday special, and apparently he had some involvement with their very small appearance in this movie, but... So, but James Gunn did kind of say that after Guardians 3, he's pretty much done with the MCU, at least for now, so, oh well. But also with Dave Bautista very famously kind of wanting to be done with the role of Drax, I really am not that surprised, but anyways. Getting off track, so, the Guardians in this movie, so after that scene of gore and whatever, after that, we cut to, this montage of Korg talking about Thor and all the adventures he's been on or whatever, and then we cut to I guess what you would call the Asgardians of the galaxy, or they're all on a planet and they're fighting some army or whatever, and then Thor comes in, and then the 80s music starts playing, and he destroys all the enemies, but also destroys the temple and whatever, and then eventually it transitions, and then he gets we'll talk about this in a second, because I do have some things to say about this, and then he gets the two goats or whatever, and whatnot, and then they go back to the ship, and then basically, long story short, the Guardians are barely in the movie, which, to be fair, I don't think anyone was really expecting them to be in the movie that long. I think everyone was kind of expecting that they would show up for, the first 15 minutes or whatever, and then they would, go away, but I don't think it was 15 minutes. I think it was 5 minutes. They were barely in the movie. They are the definition of a glorified cameo. They really are barely in this movie. And it's weird because I remember a lot of people, at least back when I was paying attention to this stuff, again, the MCU's been on the back burner for a month or so, but I remember when it was first announced that, oh yeah, the Guardians are going to be in this movie, people were like, oh, they're going to show up again. There's no way they're just going to have him in the movie for the first 15 minutes and not have him show up for, the big final battle or something. And, nope. They are there for 5 minutes, and most of them don't even get a line. Drax gets, one line, I think, and then, Star-Lord gets all the others. Oh, yeah, Nebula gets, a line when she's trying to kill, She gets, 1 or 2 lines. But the Guardians are barely in the movie. They are the definition of a glorified cameo. It's neat that they're there, I guess, but they're barely in the movie. So if you're coming to this movie because you want to see more of the Guardians, I mean, yeah, I don't really know what to tell you. They're there, but they're there for 2 seconds, so I don't know. I mean, it's cool to see them again, don't get me wrong, but there's really not much to say about them. They're just kind of there. They leave, and then that's kind of it. And then we get that, and then of course there's that shot from the trailer where Thor and Star-Lord look at each other or whatever, but it's a joke or whatever, but they leave and then you never see them again. They're not even referenced, they're not even brought up, they're just gone, so whatever. I mean, ultimately, it's not that big a deal, but I have 2 problems with this movie, and that's the first one, is the fact that the Guardians are literally in it for 5 seconds. Okay, let's talk about the second problem I have with this movie. The goats. Now, I don't actually hate the goats themselves, but I know why they're there. And you might say, oh, they're there for it to be comic relief or whatever. And yes, they are, but what irks me specifically is the very blatant why what. Okay, so obviously the whole thing with them is that they scream, right? They're screaming goats. And if they were just, I guess, regular screaming goats or whatever, if such a thing as a regular screaming goat existed, that would maybe be one thing. But no, they specifically and blatantly, you cannot convince me this is not the case, they specifically, blatantly rip off that screaming goat meme from 6 or 7 years ago, however old that darn meme is at this point. They literally just looked at that meme and were yeah, let's put that in the movie, because that's all the goats are. They're just, remember the meme? Remember the meme? Remember the meme? That is all they are, and that kind of annoys me, even though I don't actually have a problem with the goats themselves. They're fine, I guess, but I'm less annoyed with them and I'm more annoyed by what they represent. They're just a really blatant like attempt to like be like, remember the meme? Remember that goat meme? That is clearly the only reason why they exist. It's just to get people to be like, remember the goat meme? Remember that old ancient goat meme from like 7 years ago? Okay, well, okay. So, there's memes way older than that, but you get what I'm trying to say, right? They are there less, I would argue, to be comic relief and more to just be like, remember the meme? Reference. And I'm not the kind of person to be all like, oh, it's just references. I'm all for references, but that's pretty like blatant because it's obviously not literally the same voice as that video, but like it's close enough that it's like very blatant where they got the inspiration from, because it's basically just that meme, but they put it in the movie. But okay, so those are my two problems with this movie. The Guardians are barely in it, and the darn goat meme being in the movie, basically. That's not literally in the movie. Like, they don't have a character bring up a phone and they show it or whatever. It's not like an Endgame where they show Fortnite for a couple of seconds. No. It's not literally putting the meme in the movie, but it's basically taking the meme and putting it in the movie in a different way. So, whatever. Even though I don't actually have a problem, I know I keep harping on it, but I really don't have that much of a problem with the goats themselves. I just am annoyed at how blatantly like of a ripoff they are of the meme, and that's the only reason why they exist, to get people to be like, the meme, it's the meme. Okay, but yeah, so the Guardians are barely in it, and the goat meme. Those are my only two problems with the movie, and they're ultimately minor. The movie is actually, for the most part, fairly solid. So Chris Hemsworth. So I kind of talked about this earlier, how like people are like worried that like Jane was gonna like steal the show, and she doesn't really. We'll obviously talk about this when we get to Jane, but like it's very much Thor's movie first and foremost. Jane is arguably like a co-lead in some respects, which isn't surprising. I mean, of course she would be, but she does not. It is not the Jane Foster Mighty Thor movie featuring Chris Hemsworth. It is not that. It is very much Thor's movie first and Jane's movie second. So to everyone that was worried about Jane taking the spotlight, she really doesn't. So, I don't know. But as for Jane herself, I actually thought she was fine. I thought she was totally fine. Didn't have any problems with her, really. Of course, they incorporated that whole thing from the comics where she has cancer and becoming Mighty Thor drains her of her power, and they incorporate that. And we'll talk about this later, but something happens to her at the very end. But yeah, overall, yeah, she was totally fine. Didn't have any issues with her. She was actually kind of cool in some scenes, if I'm being honest. Okay, one thing I really liked. So of course, in Ragnarok, the hammer broke, right? Hela destroyed the hammer, and that was it. And that's why Thor has Stormbreaker. Well, one thing I really like that they did is that when Jane uses the hammer, because it reformed back together from being shattered in Ragnarok and everything, they incorporated the fact that it's still technically broken even if it works again, by making it so that she can shoot the hammer and it'll like split apart into multiple pieces and it'll kill a bunch of enemies and then it'll come back and reform again. That's really cool. That's a cool way of like incorporating the fact that it's broken still technically into like the hammer's like functionality. That's kind of cool. I like that they have that thing where like the hammer can like break off into a bunch of pieces and reform again. That's cool. I liked that. But yeah, I mean, Thor. What even is Thor's character arc in this movie? It's kind of the whole fact that he's hung up on Jane, basically. That's pretty much kind of what it is. And then they get back together, basically, in the movie-ish. And then they part ways again. We'll get into why in a second. But yeah, I don't know. But I don't really have anything to say as far as his character arc is concerned. All I can really say is it's Chris Hemsworth's Thor. He's good. If you like Chris Hemsworth in the other movies, you're gonna like him here. That's pretty much all there is to really say about that. I've already talked about Jane. I think she's fine. I think Jane is actually better than I expected. I did not have rock bottom expectations for her. I wasn't expecting her to be anything like great. I was expecting her to just kind of exist, and she kind of does, but I think that she justifies her existence and is mostly enjoyable. There is that whole little scene where she's trying to like come up with catchphrases, which I didn't really like, because obviously it's supposed to be cringe, but that doesn't change the fact that it is kind of cringe. Or like, what's the catchphrase that she ends up using in the final battle? It's like, "This is my hammer," or something like that. I don't know. Like, I get the point. I get why it's there, and it's not a huge deal. But yeah, I didn't like the catchphrase thing. Aside from that, she was totally fine. I thought she was totally fine. We get to see Darcy for like 5 seconds. She's there she's there like early on when we're seeing like Jane go through like therapy or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, I know Darcy is a very contentious character. Overall, even though she's like pretty blatant, like her character is pretty blatant, I haven't really minded her in any of her appearances. I thought she was fine in the first 2 movies. I thought she was fine in WandaVision. I thought she was fine here. To be fair, she's barely in this movie. Of all of her MCU appearances, this is the one where she has the least amount of screen time. Like, okay, you know how I was talking about how the Guardians are in this movie for like 5 seconds? That, even more so with Darcy. Except Darcy isn't a character that matters, so obviously it's not as notable. But yeah, I don't know. She's in the movie for like 5 seconds. She's fine. She doesn't really do much. So we get to see New Asgard some more. We get to see Valkyrie, who is now king or whatever, even though it should be queen, but whatever, it doesn't matter. I know why they're calling her king. I know why they're doing that, and it's like fine. I don't really have a big deal. I don't really care. It's just it just feels kind of weird to have it not be queen and it's king instead. But, you know, whatever. It doesn't matter. And, you know, she's in the movie. She's actually not in the movie as much as I would have thought. I mean, she's one of the main characters. You know, it's Thor, Mighty Thor, and Valkyrie. They're the 3 main characters along with Korg. But I kind of expected her to do more than she does, considering how prominent she was in Ragnarok. But I don't know. I don't know. It's not a big deal or anything. She's fine. It's just something I thought I'd bring up. So basically, the overall plot is Gorr comes in, steals the kids of New Asgard, leaves to go to like what'd they call it? The Shadow Realm? Like, unironically, the Shadow Realm, which I kind of find funny. Like, there's literally a place in the Marvel Universe called the Shadow Realm. I don't think you can ever use that word seriously in like anything ever again. That like I've talked about in the past on streams and stuff how there's like a list of like names that have been like ruined by the internet, so to speak. Like Determination. You can never say Determination unironically without people being Undertale, Sans. And like also like Among Us, like Among, you can't say Among anymore without people being like Among Us, Among Us. You can't do that anymore. Well, I feel like the Shadow Realm is not as blatant, obviously, but like people will go the Shadow Realm as like you're from Yu-Gi-Oh. Oh yeah, by the way, rest in peace. I forget his name, but like the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh died recently. So yeah, rest in peace. I never watched Yu-Gi-Oh or anything, but you know, obviously big influence on like anime and like, you know, Japanese media in general. So obviously, you know, rest in peace. But yeah, you can't talk about the Shadow Realm without people being like, Yu-Gi-Oh, because that's all anyone knows. Like, the most like basic thing about Yu-Gi-Oh anyone knows, aside from like the duel or whatever, because is like the Shadow Realm from like the 4Kids dub or whatever. But I'm getting off track. But the point is, yeah. So they go to the Shadow Realm, Jimbo. They go to the Shadow Realm to get the kids, and then the kids are missing, and then then there's this whole. Oh yeah. So there's one thing I think is really neat. So obviously the movie is very much shot like a Marvel movie. It's pretty standard, nothing fancy like the Sam Raimi stuff we got in the last movie. But one thing I thought was kind of cool is when they go to the Shadow Realm, everything becomes black and white. Like all the color gets sucked away, which I think is kind of cool. And they do that thing that like movies like Sin City and whatnot do, where like, okay, it's black and white, but we'll highlight specific things to make it stand out. Like for example, I haven't even talked about Zeus or any of that stuff yet, but like Valkyrie has like Zeus's lightning bolt, like that's still bright yellow. You can see that like Thor's like cape is still kind of red, like and like Mjolnir, when that gets used, it's still blue. Like it's black and white, but to contrast that, they have like these bright yellows, bright blues. The red is pretty subdued, but like they still have some color that makes it stand out. So, again, it's nothing new. Again, Sin City and whatnot, was popularized that years ago, but I'm still bringing it up because it's cool, because it's nice to see something different, from like the Marvel like style of cinematography. Even though, as I've said in previous videos, I'm not really one of those people that complains about that because I don't really care for the most part. But I definitely acknowledge when they do something different. Like, again, like I praised the Sam Raimi stuff in Doctor Strange because it made it feel very, very different. Obviously, it's not there all the time, but when it's there, it's very obvious, and it's really neat to see. This is obviously not as far as that, but it is cool that they did that, the Sin City thing of black and white, but we have like these accented colors on certain things. I thought that was kind of neat. Yeah, they go to the Shadow Realm, they go to Gore, then we get the big final battle, although it's not a big final battle. It kind of, like, the whole, like, stereotype of big third-act CGI battle, that actually doesn't happen in this movie. Like, obviously there's CG for, like the weapons and stuff, but, like, the battle is not this crazy CG whatever. Also, they have this the thing of like the kids all get like Thor's power. Oh yeah, so one thing I did not know is that one thing that's actually kind of cool is that Heimdall's kid, who is called Axel, get it? It's a reference. They literally acknowledge in the movie. I know I kept harping on the goat thing, but like this one is one where they directly call it out. Like the whole like, hey, it's Axel from Guns N' Roses. They literally say that in the they don't say Guns N' Roses, but like. They acknowledge the reference, like literally in the movie. But yeah, so Axel, which is like the name of Heimdall's kid, that was kind of cool. Like I didn't know Heimdall had a kid. I didn't know that was a thing, and we haven't seen Heimdall since like Ragnarok when he died. Although we do get to see him again later on. We'll get to that later. But I mean, he doesn't do much. He's just another one of the kids, but he's kind of the leader of the the captured kids. He's kind of like the leader of like the captured kid group, basically. And I mean, he doesn't do much. He's just a kid still, but I thought it was cool. And he can tap into like the same powers as Heimdall, although obviously in a limited capacity because he's still a kid. But that was cool. That was neat. I thought that was kind of a neat surprise because, again, I did not know anything about this movie other than the fundamentals. So I didn't know that Heimdall's kid was going to be in it, and I thought that was kind of neat. Yeah, it's nothing earth-shattering, but it was cool. I was kind of surprised. And they were like, oh, yeah, you're Heimdall's kid. And I was like, really? Huh, that's kind of cool. So, yeah. And then he, along with all the other kids, do that, like, fight at the very end with Thor and, like, Jane Foster and whatever, but... Let's talk about like the what they call it, like the big like god central place where like Zeus and all the other gods are. I forget what the name of it is. But yeah, they have this scene. So the scene from the trailer, like the kind of infamous scene from the trailer where like Thor's clothes get ripped off and like how they censored it in the trailer and people were like, I wonder if it's going to be like that in the movie, and then everyone that was sensible was like, yeah, it's gonna be uncensored in the movie. They're just doing it for the trailer because it's a trailer. And I'm here to report that, yes, it is indeed uncensored and not pixelated in the final movie. Now, obviously, they don't show anything. It's just his butt. But it is indeed uncensored and not pixelated in the final movie, which is like, wow, what a shocker. But I don't know. I know some people out there were like, are they going to really keep that in? Are they going to keep it pixelated because it's Disney or whatever? No, it's not pixelated, but anyways. So, Zeus. I mean, Zeus doesn't do too much. He's obviously, he's Zeus for crying out loud. It's kind of a big deal, and Thor's a big fan. It's very obvious that Thor's a big fan. A lot of what Thor, the whole God of Thunder thing, like Zeus is the original God of Thunder, and that's where Thor got it from. Stuff like that. And apparently he's played by Russell Crowe or whatever, so I don't know, that's neat or whatever. I don't really have anything to comment on when it comes to that, but I don't know. So they have that like little bit where like he's wearing like a skirt or whatever, and it's like, okay, I guess. Like I get why they did it it's like joke, but it's just kind of like, I don't know, kind of weird. But I get why they did it. But so yeah, then we get the whole thing of like, you know, the god again, like the thing at the very beginning of the movie with like Gore and like that other god, where it's like, what, we gods, you know, we gods don't care about such matters or whatever, like that whole thing. We get that, except with Zeus and Thor or whatever, and then Thor kills Zeus, and at the time I didn't really think about it too much, but in the back of my mind it was pretty obvious that there's no way that they actually killed Zeus. There's no way they actually killed Zeus. Just like that. There's no way. It's Zeus. It's Zeus. Like, there's no way they're gonna kill Zeus already. And spoiler alert, again, we'll talk about this later on, but he is indeed alive. Wow, what a shocker that one of the most powerful gods in the entire universe doesn't die from one lightning strike thing. Okay, it was the lightning bolt went through him, but even still, like, whatever. But yeah, so that's where the whole Thor being naked thing comes from. But okay, so yeah, but yeah, I know I've been kind of doing this like fairly disjointedly. I'm kind of just hopping between sections without any like real like I'm like, oh yeah, there's this scene and that scene, but I'm not really like doing them in the right order. But like, honestly, the long and short of it is this: the movie's good. It's not great, but it's good. It's like Doctor Strange, good, not great. That's what I would say. It's good, not great. I only really have 2 complaints with the movie, and they're both ultimately pretty minor. Jane is actually a decent character. I forgot about the. Okay, hold on, wait. Okay, hold on. What we gotta get to the post credit scenes. Okay. First things first. You know, let's go and address something that I genuinely was kind of surprised by. Jane dies in the movie, which surprised me. I know they have the whole thing with her cancer storyline, and so therefore it makes sense. But from a meta perspective, it's like, okay, you're gonna introduce a new Thor and kill him in the same movie. Why? Again, I know, the cancer storyline. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. It does. But it's weird, because it's like, why would you bring him in? Like, in the context of the movie itself, it works. It's just out of context from a like, I don't know, marketing perspective or a like future of the series perspective. It's weird, but they kind of leave the door open. They kind of leave the door open on that because, you know, let's talk about the first post-credit scene. So the first post-credit scene is the shock. Zeus is alive. Wow, shocker. And then we see Hercules, and basically Zeus is like, hey, Hercules, avenge me. Go destroy Thor, or whatever. That's basically what that is. Even though, obviously, Zeus is alive. You know, he talks to Hercules. He's like, yeah, go get Thor. Go kill Thor, basically. You know, that's basically what that is. I don't have any real comment on that. It's just kind of like, okay, cool, I guess. I don't have any comment other than, okay, there's the lead-in, I guess, to the next movie or whatever. But okay, so we got that. And then the second one, and the one that is arguably more interesting to me, is we see Jane go to Valhalla, because again, she died, and we get to meet Heimdall, so that was kind of cool. And then Heimdall, you know, thanks her for protecting her son and whatnot, so okay, it's cool. We get to see Heimdall one last time, or well, maybe one last time, who knows. But then they show like, oh, you know, you're always welcome here in Valhalla, or you're very much welcome here in Valhalla, or whatever. And then and then they cut to like Thor will return. Oh yeah, by the way, they have not done the X character will return the entire phase. I think I could be wrong. Black Widow didn't have it, because she dies in Infinity War. They might have done a Black Widow will return in Avengers Infinity War at the end, just for the sake of consistency. I don't actually know. I don't remember. I saw the movie once when it came out, like in July, like a year ago. It was literally a year ago, probably even to the day. It came out like what, early July? So yeah, I could have lined. This could actually be exactly 1 year after Black Widow. I'm not even sure, but yeah, Black Widow. No. Shang-Chi had the will return. But when I say will return, I mean like the stereotypical classic like white text on a black background. I don't think Black Widow had anything. And Shang-Chi had, like, the 10 rings symbol, and then it said, Shang-Chi will return. But it wasn't the basic text on the black background. Eternals didn't have that either, I think. No Way Home... Actually, I don't remember if No Way Home... No, I'm sure... I actually don't think No Way Home had it, but obviously it ended with, like, you know, Spider-Man in a new situation, you know, the beginning of the next trilogy, so, like, whatever. Doctor Strange, I don't think had it either. Yeah, I think outside of Shang-Chi, we have not had the obligatory X character will return. And of course, there's the whole thing with Loki. You know, Loki will return in season 2. But again, that's not the stereotypical white text on the black background. I'm talking about the classic white text, black background. No fancy graphics. This is the first one in the entire phase to just be the stock white text, black background. No fancy visuals, no transitions, no nothing. Just classic. Which was kind of interesting, but the fact that they did that right after showing Jane in Valhalla is like, okay. They specifically say Thor will return, not Mighty Thor will return. They just say Thor, and I'm wondering if they're doing that on purpose. I mean, Thor is just Thor. Like, you know, regular Thor is still just Thor. But the fact that they put that right after showing Jane going into Valhalla makes me wonder, are they gonna, because, like, again, like, it's really weird to introduce Mighty Thor in one movie and then just kill her, and that's the end of it. There's gotta be more to the story. She's gotta show up again. I mean, they wouldn't put that post-credit scene there if she wasn't gonna show up again. So, maybe, like, there's some battle. Maybe there's, like, a battle that happens in Valhalla in, like, a future movie, and then Jane will be there to fight or something. Like, is she gonna come back to, like, the real world or whatever? I don't know about that, but she's definitely gonna show up again. They would not place that Thor will return after showing her and have that amount to nothing. She's definitely gonna show up again in some form. Maybe not in the real world. She might be stuck in Valhalla for the rest of the MCU, for all we know, unless there's, like, another big cataclysmic earth-shattering thing that somehow makes it so she can leave. I don't know, maybe some multiverse thing will happen. They'll, like, open a portal and then she can leave Valhalla and go back to the real world. I have no clue. I'm just pulling stuff out of my ass here, but okay, so yeah, those are the two post-credit scenes. Okay, so but yeah, so Thor: Love and Thunder. I had no real excitement for this movie going in. It was like, yeah, it's Thor, it'll probably be good, but I wasn't really thinking about it too much, and it was good. It was good. Nothing amazing by any means, but it was good. Jane was fine. I didn't have any issues with her. Christian Bale did a good job as Gore. It was good. That's kind of all there really is to say about it, so yeah, I mean, is it a movie you need to go and see? No, you don't. But if you like Thor, you're probably going to like this. I have no idea what the consensus on this movie is yet, because, again, I've been, like, avoiding MCU stuff for, like, a month now. I haven't been paying attention to it, so I have no idea how, like, if this is going to be a Ragnarok, where, like, it's universally liked, or if this is going to be one of those movies that's, like, divisive. I think I did see some random articles that were talking about how it's a bit divisive, but I really have no clue. But as for me personally, it was good. Not great, but good. Definitely a solid entry in the Phase 4 lineup, and again, it's nice to see that the MCU is actually starting to, like, a return to some, like, kind of, like, consistency, you know? Or just, at least, again, the movies. The TV shows are a whole other conversation, but we'll obviously be talking about that next time when we talk about Ms. Marvel, whenever the last episode of that comes out. I don't know when, but yeah, so be on the lookout for that, I guess. But yeah, so I guess that's my thoughts on Thor: Love and Thunder. I mean, what do you guys think? You know, feel free to let me know down below. Did you like the movie? Did you not like the movie? What did you like about it? Not like about it? Whatever you got to say about the movie, good or bad, feel free to let me know down below. And yeah, stay tuned for all the other Marvel videos. I mean, I'm not gonna stop this. I mean, if there's one, it's kind of funny though, because the Nin cast has turned into the Marvel cast. Like, now I just talk about the Marvel movies pretty much, or the Marvel TV shows. Every time one of them comes out or is finished, I always talk about it, and I like talking about them, but like, I don't talk about anything else in the Nincast. Then again, I'm very tempted to rename the Nincast into something more uniform, because, I mean, the days of it being a Nintendo podcast, so to speak, which of course is where the Nincast name comes from, at this point is long in the past. I talk about way more than just Nintendo on here. I mean, I talk about the Marvel stuff, I talked about the Xbox and PlayStation stuff and the lead up to the Series X and PS5, like, there's other things I want to talk about that have nothing to do with Nintendo, so, like, I don't know, I'm very tempted to rename the Nincast into, like, something that's, like, more, like, universal and less, like, specifically tied to one thing, because I talk about way more than just Nintendo on here these days, but I'm getting off track. But yeah, so Thor, again, you know, feel free to let me know down below what you think about it, and stay tuned for Ms. Marvel, She-Hulk, Black Panther, Captain Marvel 2, all the other darn Marvel things that are going to be coming out for, like, the next 5 years. Be tuned for all those videos, because they're probably going to be coming. And with that being said, this is Logan59XP, and I'll see you guys next time.